Hello and welcome to NexTalks. I'm Nex, and this is where I talk. Today's episode is titled First Things First, and this ties into last week's episode called Productivity, and these are pretty much the things that I was going to include in that episode that I thought really deserved its own episode so that I didn't overwhelm you with information on last week's episode. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is willpower. There's a great book about this by John Tierney and Roy Baumeister called Willpower: Rediscovering the Greatest Human Strength. And in this book, they talk about some things that I found really interesting. The first being that willpower does appear to be a limited resource. So we do not have unlimited access to willpower. And if you don't know what willpower is, it's basically the energy that we use to control ourselves. So anytime that we are putting energy towards doing really anything, we are using some of that limited willpower that we have. And everyone starts with a certain amount when they first wake up in the morning, and then it steadily decreases throughout the day as we use it up. Not only is willpower a limited resource, but everyone has different amounts of it. Some people just seem to be born with greater levels of willpower. The good news is that you can increase the amount of willpower that you have by exercising it, just like a muscle. So anytime that you can practice using willpower, for instance, watching your mouth, practicing not swearing, that's going to help train your willpower muscle. But while you wait for that muscle to develop, there are some things that you can do to maximize your willpower early in the day before it starts to run low. And that is by putting first things first. So how do you want to start out your days? There's a great book about this called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And in this book, he talks about the importance of getting your day started off on the right foot. And to do that, he uses an acronym called the Life Savers. The savers part of the word, SAVERS, is the acronym. And those are 6 activities that you should do every morning before you start your day. And in this book, he suggests that you start waking up 1 hour earlier than you normally do. Don't worry, it doesn't have to really be the morning. Maybe you work nights, maybe you sleep during the day, maybe you're a nocturnal night owl type person like I am. It doesn't really matter what time this is happening, it's just that you're doing these things first. First things first. Up first, we have S. And S stands for silence. This is meditation. Finding some quiet time every single day is so important for your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, and just for sanity, for clarity, for vision. All of these things are so important and actually tie into some of these other letters as well. A is for affirmations. Every single day, you should be saying some affirming, supportive, encouraging phrase to yourself, preferably a few phrases. And this can be anything at all. I am beautiful. I am strong. I am a good listener. It's especially effective, in my opinion, if you pick something that you are a little insecure about, something that you often have negative self-talk around, something where you don't really believe this about yourself. It's kind of like faking it till you make it, changing the way that your mind works, planting in the types of positive, affirming ideas and feelings that you'd like to have by repeating them like a mantra to yourself as many times as you can. V is for visualization. My favorite kind is a simulation visualization, which has actually been proven to be more effective than just your regular old run-of-the-mill visualizations or visioning where you picture yourself at the end goal. So generally, you just picture what you want to achieve at the end, and you see yourself there, and you see how you feel, and you get really clear in your mind's eye with every little detail that you can about this ideal outcome that you want to have. In simulation, you reverse engineer from the end goal all the way back to where you are right here and right now. What stands between you right here, right now, and that end goal? What steps are between you and your goal? And you just reverse engineer it back, all the way to right now. What is the next step? And this allows you to take much greater action immediately so that you are keeping that goal in mind As Stephen Covey says in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you're beginning with the end in mind, but then you're also taking action. You're not just visualizing some perfect world that feels completely out of reach. You're breaking it down into bite-sized pieces, little baby steps, and you're making it into an actionable goal that you can actually start moving towards and see how you can connect the person you are today with the person that you will be when you've achieved this goal. So these first 3 letters, silence, affirmations, and visualization, I actually lump all into my meditation practice. So I do a body scan, I relax my body, I take a few deep breaths, then I do some affirmations, and then I do the simulation visualization as my daily meditation practice. And you are welcome to take that exact same strategy for your day-to-day routine. And this brings us to E, which is exercise, something that we know we should be doing every single day, and we don't need to get into all the benefits. We all know that we should be moving our bodies and exercising every single day, so take it out of the realm of knowing and take it into the realm of doing it. Get it done. The earlier in the day that you get it done, the higher your level of willpower and the more likely you are to stick to it. If you put it off and you say you're going to do it later, you're just going to have less and less willpower. This is why we tend to make worse decisions later in the day, because at that point we've used up, if not all of our willpower, at least most of it, and we start to make bad decisions with our food, bad decisions with our bodies. So it's best to have the day planned out in advance so that we can set ourselves up for success and get the harder things done, just like we talked about last week, early in the day. Get them done first. Eat that frog. And exercise is usually a big frog for a lot of people. The letter R is one of my personal favorites because it stands for reading. Make sure that you're reading something every single day. It doesn't have to be an entire book. It doesn't even have to be a whole chapter. Maybe you're committed to just reading 1 page of something every single day, but consume some kind of information from someone else's brain every single day. I like to read nonfiction. If you want to read fiction, that's fine. Just read something every day. The final S in the Lifesavers is scribing, which is just another word for writing. Make sure that you're writing every day. It could be journaling, it could be stream of consciousness writing, you could be writing a book or poetry or songs. Just make sure that you're writing, using that brain, keeping these types of skills well-oiled and functional. Take a minute now to imagine how different your days would go if you started off with these first things first. Silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. It's going to set you up for success. It's going to put you into a state where you've, 1, already accomplished some really important things for your day, but 2, it's also setting up your mindset. It's getting you into the right state of being in order to do all of the hard things on your to-do list, all the things you need to do to accomplish your goals. It's going to give you that mind of steel. It's going to develop that willpower, and it's going to set you up for maximum success. I want to give a shout out here to Cal Newport, the author of a book called Deep Work. And this book is basically about meditation. It's not really pitched that way or framed that way, but as a yoga teacher who loves meditation and knows all of the benefits, the idea of deep work is basically meditation. And in this book, he proposes that you can solve any problem, if you spend 20 to 60 minutes fully focused on solutions to that problem. So there may be days when you are really dealing with something heavy that you're trying to figure out and you're really having a hard time with. And instead of doing your normal meditation that you normally do, you replace that with a deep work session, which is a fully focused session on one subject. So you pick a problem or a subject that you want to focus on, and then you meditate just on that for at least 20 minutes straight. And you can go up to an hour. If you feel like you still haven't solved it in an hour, maybe come back to it again the next day. But I've used this strategy, and within 1 hour, I can solve pretty much anything that comes at me. It is truly amazing the power of our mind. When we remove distractions and interruptions and we fully focus on something, the results are sometimes hard to believe. Another little sidebar here is borrowed from the book The One Thing by Gary Keller. And this is when you do this, when you become so focused on having the life that you want to have, and you're focusing on the most important thing, everything else is going to be neglected. That is just the nature of this type of focus. When you focus on one thing, you can't focus on everything else. So when you're really focused on, let's say, your business, sometimes your relationships might get neglected. Sometimes your housework might get neglected. And that's okay. I know there's someone out here who needs to hear this right now, because eventually what will happen is those things become your one thing. They become the most important thing. They make it to the top of the list, and then when that day comes, you take care of that, and maybe you neglect the other things. Just remember that you're human, and you cannot do everything every day. So as you get really focused, some things are going to get neglected, and that's okay. The most successful people have the same problem. And it's really not a problem at all. Like I said last week, the reality is we are all going to die with things on our to-do list. We just need to let go of that pressure to get every single thing done. It's not a problem, it's just life. Okay, so we have the lifesavers, and one more practical tool that I want to share with you that you may have heard of before is known as time blocking. And this is scheduling out everything that you want to do in your day into blocks and chunks of time. So you might not want to put every single task into a little 15 to 30 minute window on your schedule, but you can chunk out housework or chunk out you're working on your business and chunk out your exercise. You don't need to list every single exercise you plan to do, but you can just block that out. And what you'll find is that there's things that are very easy to overlook. I've been doing this for a long time, and even I will sometimes forget to block out time for showering, for eating, for sleeping. And what is amazing about this strategy is when you take the time to do this and you block out everything that you do throughout the day, you realize how few hours you really have to get everything done. So it can, again, help with that dose of reality to remind you that this is not infinite amounts of time in your day. You don't have access to infinite energy and resources. You need a certain number of hours of sleep. You need a certain number of hours to prepare your food so that you're not making bad choices late in the night because you forgot to schedule in time to prepare food and now you're hungry and you're just going to eat a bag of chips. So it's really, really, really important to block out your time. And you can do this at the same time as you're going through your list and prioritizing everything like we went over last week with eating that frog and prioritizing your to-do list. And then once you know the order in which you need to do everything on your list, it's really easy to time block it. So I mentioned eating, showering, and sleeping. Another thing that people often overlook is travel time. So you might have an appointment in there, but are you scheduling out the travel time? Are you scheduling out the time that you need to get ready, to get dressed, to do your makeup and your hair and whatever you need to do to get ready to go? And do you need to eat before you go? Do you need to kind of shift things around as you end up with appointments and things on your schedule? Make sure that you're not deleting food or sleep, but you're adjusting as necessary. And with all of these strategies and all of these tools, it's important to maintain perspective. Most days, everything isn't going to go perfectly according to plan. It's just about awareness. Where did things go wrong? Maybe there's a task that took longer than you thought. Maybe you didn't realize how tired you were going to be after your workout and you should have blocked out a little time for some rest instead of just immediately thinking you were going to work out really hard and then go right into an important meeting. So even when things don't go according to plan, it can still be a success because it increases awareness and teaches us how to do better going forward. And one last thought I'll leave you with here is that this doesn't actually have to be done first. The time blocking, the prioritization, I actually do like to do that the night before I go to bed because it gives me a chance to get everything out of my head. I can kind of get my day mapped out and planned out ahead of time, and then I'm not spending time in the morning making my to-do list, doing my time blocking. I can just get right into my lifesavers, right into my exercise, right into my meditation, my journaling, my reading, and just kind of hit the ground running. So that's what works best for me. You might find getting up a little extra early to do all this in the morning is better for you. It really doesn't matter when you do it as long as you're doing it every day. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of NexTalks. I'm Nex. I talked. I hope you liked it. If there's something else you'd like to hear me talk about, or if you have something you'd like to add to this subject, first things first, you can go ahead and leave it here in the comments or reach out to me on social media. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support this show, you can support on the website NexJuice.com. That's NexJuice.com. Thank you.